Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Rithlin. I'm John Rithlin. This is another Unpopular Wrestling Opinion show, and it's also a 20-year reflection on the official beginning of the Attitude Era. Vince McMahon cutting a promo, 12/15/97, among other things saying to the fans, "We think that you're tired of having your intelligence insulted." And it's 2017, Vince, and we're still tired of that. You might want to get working on that and realize, oh yeah, we don't want to see Reigns versus Lesnar. Fans are going to shit all over it. But anyway, was this the official start of the Attitude Era? I mean, I guess since Vince said it, yes, but you could argue back in even 95, when Goldust's character first came in, and within the first few months of him being in the company, Dustin Rhodes was already putting a ton of attitude in there, having the heart, the painting with Razor on there and his feud with Razor Ramon. And the feud he had with Roddy Piper, stripped down to women's lingerie under his bodysuit. What the fuck was that? Brett versus Shawn at the Iron Man match was kind of like the last, I don't want to say the last great wrestling match before the Attitude Era, but it was like kind of the bridge, because you had the Piper Goldust feud, and then you had that match, Shawn and Brett, in the Iron Man match where Shawn won. Shawn started to display some more attitude. And it worked, and you had the Pillman's got a gun incident, and Austin gained on the rise. Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass." Like, there's a lot of moments that led up to all this. Brett versus Austin at WrestleMania 13 with the blood running down Austin's face. Rock turning heel, the whole Die Rocky Die thing, and him becoming a great heel and doing some great things. And he really did do some great goddamn things. He really did. I mean, people can knock The Rock all they damn well want and say that, oh, he was never the greatest wrestler. And no, admittedly, he wasn't. He was a freakish athlete, and he had tons of charisma. But a lot of his moves were really flashy, and the people's elbow doesn't look like it would hurt anybody. Because while he would connect, a lot of times he would connect like barely. I mean, granted, a 260-pound man connecting with his elbow in your chest might actually break your ribs, if not crack them right straight in. But still, that was silly. But from 96, I want to say it was June 10th, 1996. From that point to April 13th, 1998, WCW was beating WWE television. WWE had to undergo a whole bunch of changes. They were losing people left and right. And all this is covered in the 20-part Monday Night War series that is on my TV. Well, it's not on my TV currently over there, but that's where I've watched it before, and it's great stuff, and I recommend you check it out because it's better than it's better than Monday Night War piece they did in 2003, 2004. It's better than the Rise and Fall WCW set, even though they did focus on Jim Crockett promotion stuff, and that was really cool. But the 20-part series, again, featured on my TV over there, was actually really, really fun. And did cover quite a bit of stuff in a lot of aspects. Now, it did have some repeated footage, as you're going to have in any anthology series. But it covered different aspects. Was DX revolutionary for WWE coming back and beating WCW? Yes. Was it Austin and his rise and his feud with Vince that went on for a couple years? Yes. Was it Mick Foley's rise and Mick Foley falling off the cell? I mean, that happened a couple months after WWE and WCW had been trading ratings victories and everything at King of the Ring 98. But yes, that was a big part of it. Undertaker rising. Kane debuting. After being a fucking dentist and fake Diesel. And then the fake Razor thing didn't help. I mean, debuting Rocky Maivia, with the pineapple, the crazy tossed pineapple hair and everything. And I mean, that's not an insult. Or a racially charged insult. That's just how it looked. It reminded me of the top of a pineapple. And it didn't suit him. And the whole ribbons and everything. And that kind of thing. He's going to be a smiling baby face doing this. And so happy to be here. I can't do the smile like he can. Because I don't have that many teeth. Or nearly that much charisma. No one does. But there's a lot to cover. I mean, and I'm not going to be able to cover every single thing of the Attitude Era. One, I can only shoot about 33 minutes of footage on my, of video on my phone. I also don't want to go that long, and I've talked about aspects of the Attitude Era before. But what it comes down to, is it overrated or is it underrated? It's somewhere in the middle. There are parts of it that you look back on, you're like, how the hell did I watch this as a teenager? And then there are parts that you watch where you're just like, my God, this is so great. Sorry, by the way, my nose, allergies. This stuff's just so great. I remember this stuff. I remember this feud. This feud was wonderful. The build up to Sting and Hogan and WCW was great. I mean, the result went over like a fart in church. But the creation of Sting and going to the Crow character, Hall and Nash coming in, the Cruiserweights were a huge part of the Monday Night Wars. And often get forgotten about as being one of the catalysts, is one of the reasons that WCW was better than WWE for programming for a number of years. All due respect to their top tier talent. And all due respect to the talent they had that worked hard. Because WWE's light heavyweight division did not work. That was one of the few things that WWE did not as good as WCW. Even their tag team division for a couple years was depleted. Even though you had great teams like Owen and British Bulldog holding the tag titles for a number of months. You had like the Road Dogg, and I'm sorry, but the New Age Outlaws, New Age Outlaws are mega popular. Billy Gunn was 10 times the worker the Road Dogg could have ever been. Road Dogg just couldn't work at all. Couldn't work, he could talk. Billy Gunn was like the better worker, Road Dogg was clearly the better talker. And you had talents going back and forth. I mean, if you think about it, there's one guy that, and I don't consider the WWE incarnation of the NWO counting. One guy that was in both factions. X-Pac. That's it. And he was 6, and, he was a 1, 2, 3 kid in WWE. Went to WCW for about a year and a half. 2 years, something like that. Actually, about a year and a half. Then came back to WWE, and was part of the X. And that was a great formation. Once it got to about 98, WWE started doing things a lot better. They started realizing that all these people they were building, they were finally ready to be the top tier talents and take things to WCW. And WCW didn't have a lot of guys that they had built from the ground up. They had DDP. At the time, they were building up Goldberg, but a lot of guys were older. Scott Hall started really having a lot of personal issues in 98. Kevin Nash has injuries. You had Randy Savage, who was great, but he was also older. And you had Hogan with creative control and all that bullshit. Ric Flair was having issues with the company at the time in 98. WCW, from the Starrcade 97 result, and by the way, I will have a reflection show of that up sometime before or just after Christmas, as I already pre-recorded that, and you'll hear that in the introduction. But from the Starrcade 97 result, because until then, WCW was just rising and rising and rising and rising, even despite any issues that they had. But then you see, from there, stuff starts to plateau. And they were still getting big ratings. They were still making big money. They were doing well, but after Halloween Havoc 98, Nitro after Halloween Havoc 98, when they had to show the entire DDP Goldberg feud match that got cut off because of pay-per-view problems, and them going over time, they didn't win another ratings thing. They could have won it on January 4th, 1999, except for the finger poke of doom. And I've talked about a lot of aspects of the Monday Night Wars before. And I will still do that, because I will still do reflection shows and various shows over the coming years about the Monday Night Wars. My channel will likely not stop, even with this whole, since I'm recording this 15th, this whole net neutrality thing, since I don't think anything's going to come of it, it's going to be stopped. But, that aside, so I'm not going to get into politics here. I'm just saying that I will continue my channel as long as I can to have fun and to present the best content I can to you guys free of charge. I'm not going to charge you guys for my content. I might, if I ever get enough subscribers, I might do a Patreon account. But that's only if I think that people are going to be willing to provide, pay a little bit here and there. But anyway, I only do this stuff from my phone. I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I know I only do this stuff on my phone. I don't do it on a computer. I don't do it on a laptop. So I might be getting a laptop. I might have a better setup at some point. I just really look back, and I mean, I'm going to go back to the Attitude Era now. I just look back on the Attitude Era, and it's like from Starrcade 97, that was really where they put a hole in the ship. Because that should have been the launching point. WWE should have never won that war if WCW had kept their foot on WWE's throat. But they let off. They got complacent. When they were building stars, a lot of times they would cut them right down. They cut Jericho off at the knees in that feud with Goldberg. Dean Malenko, Benoit, Eddie, Saturn. I mean, Saturn would probably be ranked the third out of, those guys. But Rey Mysterio, Rey would have never been a world champion, but he could have at least been a U.S. champion. There were a lot of guys that WCW just simply signed just to have them away from Vince, like Bret Hart. And they proceeded to do absolutely nothing with him. And by the time somebody figured out what to do with him and, they give him the championship at Mayhem, then that happened. And then he got injured the next month. But looking back on it, yes, there were some shit angles. The PMS angle where Terry got pregnant and they had no way to get out of it. And Ed Ferrara thought that it was such a good idea. And Ed Ferrara, the disgusting fat fuck of a human being that made fun of JR's Bell's palsy. I ain't got no respect for Ed Ferrara. Not that he's ever going to see this, because I doubt he knows how to turn on a damn computer. I doubt he'd want to turn on a damn computer at this point, because people probably remember that the guy's a disgusting piece of shit. And then, of course, there's stuff in WCW, Judy Bagwell on a forklift. Some of the worst shit. Everything on a goddamn pole. It was the stuff that would get cleared by AOL Time Warner that just blew my mind. Where I'm just like, okay, I know they did the merger and everything and stuff like that, but good God, did they I know they didn't want wrestling, but, God, I'm sorry, guys. Again, allergies. It's just mind-blowing to think how much fun, though, programming was. Especially from the Monday Night War time of, September 4th, 1995, to March 26th, 2001. Now, yes, the Attitude Era falls somewhere in the middle there. About late 96, early 97. For me, it started in WCW. And July 7th, 1996, where the NWO was formed, where Hogan turned heel. With WWE, it took a bit. And it took a bit for them to get that attitude, but to realize that they needed to. Now, they did hotshot too many titles, including the main title. They hotshot the IC, the European, the Tag Team Championships. When they had the Women's Championship, just the Women's Championship was disbanded so quickly after it was reformed. It was just sad. And then it was brought back quickly. That was a mess. The women's division, even though the women worked hard, there was just nothing there for them except to be tits and ass. And, of course, then you have Sable, the worst female to ever be part of wrestling. Because, sure, okay, she got lots of guys and statistically some women to tune in. To me, now, me personally, in my goddamn show, she was hideous. She was ugly. She was really ugly. Fake tits, all that stuff and everything. Couldn't talk, couldn't work, had no passion. And just, I never cared for her. I never cared for her at all. Every time I saw her on TV, click. Half the time I just mute her. And just be like, okay, look at this happen. Or I turn the volume down. Because her voice literally made me want to puke. Her and Brock seem happy now, and that's great. But I never understood the appeal of Sable. Sonny at least cut a promo, respected the business. Sable didn't respect anything. Be right back, folks. Short break, like a minute. Now, to talk about, and the reason I'm not going to shoot that hard on Sable right now, gross, is probably because a lot of guys have. Anyway, I'm going to kind of save that kind of stuff for a worst wrestlers series I'm going to be doing. Male and female wrestlers. And yes, Sable's going to be on there. But you think about a lot of the great things. There were a lot of great moments. Austin with the beer truck, Big Show making an impact. At the time, first he was known as Big Show Paul White, but he made a pretty good, debut. bursting through the ring. Kane made a really good debut. Undertaker evolved as a character. A lot of people really, really evolved. A lot of people got better. They worked harder. A lot of people in WCW, main event guys, not necessarily guys lower, main event guys got lazy. And the company got lazy. Even as they were drawing big crowds and stuff like that, they were starting to really falter. And then by 99, they were really faltering. Then by 2000, oh God. But now I want to look at another aspect of the Attitude Era. ECW. People will know my opinions on ECW and that I never necessarily cared for it, even with the efforts of some of the talents. There were some people I just didn't necessarily care for. And this will get left into, this will be an unpopular opinion on ECW at some point, where I will not try to repeat too many of these points, so I'll just keep it brief. But ECW had a big part in the Monday Night Wars. They escalated the violence. They were able to kind of be a little more real with some of their feuds. Not all of them, but some of them. They did do a lot of story arcs and everything. Raven Dreamer, Raven Sandman, losing his, I believe his ex-wife and his child to Raven, who Raven, was like the cult leader-like thing, brainwashing both of them. Sandman caning Tommy Dreamer. That was right after the guy got caned. I don't remember where the country was, but he got caned in Singapore, but I don't remember the kid's name. I know he was stupid, so he deserved to get caned. But ECW did have RVD and Jerry Lynn. I mean, I'm jumping way ahead. They had Sabu. They had a lot. They did go balls out with a lot of their stuff. And the flaming tables and the violence and this kind of stuff. The problem is they did so much of it, they didn't know how to top it. And they got to where people were doing the same things. And New Jack almost died on like a stage dive. When somebody landed on his head. Vic Grimes, I believe was the name. It looked like a couch falling on him, because that's about how big Vic Grimes was. And I was never a fan of New Jack, and still not, as far as a wrestler, but he's outspoken, and he certainly has put his body through a lot of shit. Yes, there are a lot of wrestlers in ECW that, to me, were dog shit in the ring. I mean, New Jack was never a great worker. Sabu, you take away the weapons, he wasn't really much of anything. Sandman, and various others. But you also have to look at the good things that ECW did. And ECW brought a lot of escalation of hey, we're going to go balls out, we're going to do this kind of crazy stuff. They had a really rabid fan base. They still do. There are still smatterings of ECW chants when a lot of extreme stuff happens in some markets. And as much as I love WCW, as much as WCW was a bigger company and a better company, in my opinion, you're not hearing WCW chants anywhere. ECW's legacy has lived on. Now, we need to stop revisiting the whole thing and bringing back the ECW relics, because that company's been dead since 2001. It was even a debate on doing it in 2005. Doing the 2006 relaunch of ECW is bad. And Impact doing it in 2010 wasn't much better. It just wasn't. I'm not saying that because it was Impact. It wouldn't have worked no matter who was running it. But ECW did do a lot of great things. They did some crazy things that they shouldn't have done, but they did some great things. And ECW is a big part of it. And was a big influence on WWE. And I mean, Vince took stuff from ECW. They, reshaped it, stole it, and used it better. WCW didn't really use a whole lot of ECW stuff all that great. I mean, their hardcore division, WWE's hardcore division was more fun. WCW's hardcore division was ridiculous. They had made titles really didn't matter by that point, but in WWE they still did if you kept them on some people for a little bit. In WCW, I mean, by 99-2000 they couldn't do anything with the championship. Championship changed hand 15 times, going to David Arquette and this kind of stuff and everything. Mike Awesome, going back to the ECW thing. Mike Awesome, ECW champion, went to WCW because he wanted more money. And both companies, ECW and WCW, are going to be done by 2001. And that is a shame about ECW. I think ECW would have been the one to really live on. They would have had to have reshaped a little bit and toned down some things. But it could have been like early Ring of Honor. And that would have been pretty nice if they had been able to do that. But they weren't able to, and I'm not going to go into fancy booking for that. But ECW is a big influence on WWE and WCW, for better or worse. Every single thing was hot shot like crazy, especially in WWE. That's why the ratings so rapidly eroded once 2001 was done. Because it also because they blew through the entire invasion angle. And just looking back on, I mean, I'm not going to go in the invasion angle, but looking back on everything, was it overrated? Was it underrated? There were aspects of it that were overrated. But there were aspects of it that really fit the bill in why it was one of the most fun times to be a wrestling fan. Even if you gotta take off the rose-tinted glasses and look and see that, yeah, some of that shit wasn't all that good. But some of it was really good. Some of those matches live on. Quite a few of those matches are really, really fun. Quite a few of those feuds, watching the build and everything. Mankind Undertaker's a feud that's often forgotten about as being probably in the top 5 of Attitude Era feuds, in my personal opinion. Especially since it went on, I mean, off and on, but for about 2 years. Rock and Austin and all that stuff. I mean, there's tons of great feuds. So, yes, there are parts of it that are overrated. There are parts of it that are underrated. And the reason this is an unpopular opinion, though, is because I'm not gonna just put on rose-tinted glasses and everything and that kind of stuff, and like Nakamura to concede Cena. I'm not going to do that and say the Attitude Era is the greatest thing ever. I will say it provides some of the greatest moments, and provided great ratings, and great opportunities for a lot of people to make a lot of money. But I will say, though, was I upset when the Attitude Era was over? I was upset when the competition was over. And one could argue now you got New Japan and WWE kind of going head-to-head a little bit, or at least having a bit of a battle, because New Japan's got enough stars to do it. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, I missed the Monday Night Wars. I missed the part of me misses the Attitude Era because it was a lot more fun, a lot more destination programming. The wrestling's a whole lot better though now than it was then. And it's not knocking the talents. They weren't allocated enough time on the programs to do it. The pay-per-views at times they were. But anyway, I want to know some of your favorite Attitude Era moments in the comments. Also, let me know what you guys thought. Do you think it was an overrated era of wrestling? Underrated era? Do you think that maybe I was too harsh on it? I want to know in the comments. Anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter, link in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.